Okay, the next step is to cut the ripstop tape. This is ripstop repair tape, and we're going to cut it 5/8 of an inch wide, and we're going to cut two pieces that are 5/8 of an inch wide, and then we're going to be left with another piece, a third piece, that's going to be a little bit better than 5/8 of an inch, and that's going to be fine. So what I'm doing is I'm marking each end 5/8 of an inch, and then I'm going to be cutting on that line, and then I'm going to be using the third piece, which will be the size that's a little larger. That will be used for the tail, but these two pieces that are 5/8 of an inch, they will be used on the wing. So I put the tape there, and now I'm going to line it on the two marks on the ends, and I'm going to adjust this so that I wind up hitting the mark there, just like that. That way I get this fairly straight. Doesn't have to be perfect. So now I'm going to go to the outside here, and I'm going to make this cut, and then I'm going to make the second cut. Pretty simple way to do it, and it's very effective. So now I have two strips that are the same size and one strip that's a little larger, and so we're going to be using the larger strip for the tail. So I'll set this aside for the tail, and these two we're going to be using on the wing. So now I'm going to take the strips that I've cut, and I'm going to place them. I'm going to use that one over on that side and this one on this side. But I want my strip to go beyond where this carbon, the diagonal carbon, is going to go. And I want it to go beyond it about 1/4 of an inch. So I have a line here already. This happens to be a 1/4 inch piece of wood. So I'm just going to lay it on here, and I'm going to draw a line out past the edges of the carbon. So now I know where the repair tape needs to go to. So I'll do that on this side. So now I can start my repair tape there and go down. So now let's go ahead and cut the repair tape. So we'll just start right here. And what I'm going to do is center the repair tape over the carbon. Make sure it's in the center, and then come out and cut it onto that line. Like that. So that's that piece. Okay, so now we want to go ahead and peel these off, and we'll start back here with the small one and go that direction. So I'm just going to peel this back and start it at this line and come straight down, keeping the carbon in the center, or thereabouts the center of the tape. So it'd be somewhere in the neighborhood like that. And then I'm going to take my piece of wood, and I'm going to concentrate starting right up against the carbon on both sides, so that the tape is actually pulled in to the carbon, and then go ahead and press it the rest of the way out, and then all the way down, just like that. So that's what we're after. Okay, so now you can see that I've got that all pressed down, and you can see how the tape actually ran a little long in places, and that's fine because we're going to be cutting it back. And you can also see how I have the reinforcement underneath the edge of the carbon where it comes to the point up here. That's just going to help protect the bottom over time, because this is going to be actually a special wing, which you'll get to see the finished result whenever it's done. Again, I'm going to create a pad like I did before. I'm going to create two pads, one underneath this edge of the carbon, and of course one underneath that one. And I'm going to make these pads about 1 inch. So they're going to be a 1 inch square and then a circle of 1 inch or thereabouts. It's just like a reinforcement. So it should add some life to the wing itself. Okay, so now we're going to figure out where that's going to go. We need to put a mark on here from the point back where this point or this line here meets up with this leading edge. It needs to go back 1/2 inch. So I'm going to mark it at 1/2 inch, and then do the same thing on this end. I'm going to mark it back 1/2 inch. Now note that I'm square with the front whenever I get my 1/2 inch mark. In other words, my 1/2 inch mark is not this away. My 1/2 inch mark is square with the leading edge. Same thing here, it's square with the leading edge. It's not running this away, it's running this away. So now I know that this area right here is where this needs to go. So we're going to go ahead and put it on. And it's going to go down just like that. And we'll mash it down. Okay. Now I want to mark that again so that I know where it's at. So again, we're going to go 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to bring this line back up so that I know exactly where it's got to go. So we go 1/2 inch here. And then we bring this back out. Okay. Now I want to go ahead and glue these rods in place. Again, we don't want the rod to move, so we're going to put some tape on it to keep it in place. And now I'll set this aside and let it cure, and then we'll start working back on the tail again. So now we're going to cut the remaining strip that we have left and go ahead and mark it up so that we can use it on the tail. And we'll go ahead and trim it, all the pieces, and we'll get this taken care of. So now I'm going to go ahead and peel these off, and stick them in place. Okay, now that I have all the tape down, I'm ready to go ahead and add the carbon. So what I'm going to do now is trim this bottom here. Just going to trim that straight across to match the material. Okay, now that I have the tape down and I've pressed it down all the way, I'm going to go ahead and check the fit of my framework. Now, one thing about my frame, my fixture is set up so that I can actually utilize this part of the framework here to keep this from sliding, because if I put this on this way and lock it in place here or put it over the nails, this is going to have a tendency to creep up. See how that's going up? Okay, but if I turn it over and I let this part here hit my board, then whenever I put it down and then I latch it over on this side, notice it doesn't creep up because the other end of this is hitting my edge here. So that's the great thing about making yourself a fixture. Take one of the pieces of paper that you had left from the tape, and you can actually use it and lay it over the nail, and of course I'm pressing it down so that I've protected my wood surface. Now, one thing I want to do is make sure that I can go right to the edge here. So what I need to do is lift that up and cut this paper right back to the edge of the table, or the edge of the door here, so that this can set in here like it's supposed to, which is something like that. So now I see that's going to set in there just fine. So I know I go right up above the nails with the glue. So let me go ahead and do the glue part. So I'm just going to put the glue right like this. And the same thing on this side. Putting it right on the edge here. And now I'm going to set this down in the glue on that side. And I want to hook that piece, that nail, and then hook this nail here. And the idea is that I glue all of this together. So now I'm going to get some glue on this side and go back to this side, and now I'm going to go ahead and put it in place. And it should have plenty of glue on it. And just take your time and get it down. Make sure that your material is underneath the glue and it's not wrinkled up. And make sure that the carbon is above the nail like it should be. And now I'm just going to wipe this down. Wipe it down over here. And now we have one more piece of carbon. You want to make sure that everything is right before you walk away from it. But we have one more piece of carbon that we'll be putting on. And also, to keep this from lifting up, you can put a little weight on it. And what I do is I take my ruler and just lay across it, and that's enough weight that it keeps it down. Okay, we take a close look. You can see the material's laying flat, and now we just need to let that cure, and then we'll add the spring rod, which is the longest piece of tail carbon, and that's what keeps the tail fanned out. Okay, at this point we got this here set up enough that it's going to be good enough to continue the build here. So what we need to do now is install the spring carbon, and that's going to be actually pretty simple. We first lift this up here and cut away any excess glue. So we will go ahead and do that, just like that, and then just like this, and we should be able to remove this paper and pull off any of this glue here, like that. And same thing on this side. We're just going to get rid of the excess here, so the excess glue doesn't hold anything, so we go ahead and remove it. And then we're going to go ahead and remove the tape where we got this tape down, and we're going to glue in the spring rod, and we want this all to flex so that the tail gets fanned out and is not being obstructed in any way. And once we cut have the tail free, now we can go ahead and finish it. So I'm going to lift up the paper protection that we had down and just check and make sure I do not have any glue, and I do not. And this is all freed up, and again I'm just going to remove any residual glue that happens to be on this, and maybe you can see that this has actually turned out really well. So now what I'm going to do is take the time to go ahead and trim the ripstop tape right next to the edge of the material, and go ahead and do this all the way around, because we're almost done with the tail. Now we want to go ahead and glue in the spring rod. So I'm going to set the tail back down here and locate it in my fixture, and then we're going to be adding some glue, and you can see where I'm going to be putting the glue because I actually have it marked on my fixture. I'm going to run a bead of glue from here down to this point, which is 2 1/4 inches, and I'm going to do that on either side, and then we'll take it out of this fixture and put the spring rod in place. So just run the glue down about to 2 1/4 inches, like that. Now I'm going to take it out of the fixture because all I did was use that to get the glue located. Okay, so I have a piece of tape. I'm going to locate the spring rod, so I'm going to lay it in the glue, fold it around, and lay it in the glue on this side, and then press it down and pull the spring rod so that it is flush on either side, and then install this piece of tape, and this piece of tape is going to help hold it in place until the glue sets. And now I'm just going to kind of wipe the glue, and now we'll let this set, and this is free to spread out, so because it's not in the fixture anymore. And now we'll let that glue set and cure up, and then we'll put the tape on it. So there you can see the spring rod is in place and it's glued down, and now we'll let that cure, and then we'll put the outside wrap and the lower wrap on it.